Letting you know right now, I think there will be quite a lot of alpha in this conversation. Because should I discuss it? I think, not sure I can say that, but about how big this project is. We are a pioneer partner in the Digital Euro project. Hope, pray, and do my best to lock some of these deals. Game changers, for sure. It's not going to take a day. It's still going to take a month. But if we make it there, then it's amazing. We need to be there when the balance shifts and now everybody wants to be on chain. Everybody wants to tokenize. Everybody wants to maintain privacy. And then suddenly, and I said that, it can work for a few years before you become an overnight success. And I think that will be the play there. Yeah, what took you so long?
I don't know. I wanted it to be something special, and I think right now it's an important moment for the COTI community. In all honesty,
Okay.
Right? Like this V2 was the big thing,
V2 is the big thing.
And people just they're impatient, and the community is acting up right now, and I don't really get it, but
it's the market. It's the market that gets to them, right? It's because that's the case. I'm not worried because the market shifts, right? So if we got the right ingredients and the market shifts, then we're all good. And nothing is perfect, right? But I think we're doing the right things at the right order at a very high pace, and we'll be just fine.
What is it like working for the last couple of weeks with everything going on? I think people want to know, right? What has it been like working for people at COTI headquarters? Like you've heard us all say, like the thoughts and prayers, our hearts are with you and everything, but it would be really nice to hear kind of what it's been like for you guys.
So I don't know if you can see that, but I'm taking this call like, okay, the camera tracks me, but my home setup is from a bomb shelter. So houses in Israel, by law, have a bomb shelter. So that's that. So it wasn't pleasant, never is, but to be honest, think of it like our own natural disaster. Happens every now and then, force majeure, we continue.
I don't know if you remember a few years ago, but you posted an update video from the office, and you said it will take more than missiles to stop COTI. Some people are legitimately worried that this is, a detriment to the protocol. I was wondering if you could just speak to that a little bit and put their minds at ease.
No, absolutely not. Because we've experienced, if we were living somewhere else and this sort of thing, and we were different people and this sort of thing would have happened, then I would be worried for this protocol. But this is what we're trained to do. I mean, we've experienced this multiple times, right, throughout our history.
So I've been following along for probably about 6 years now, and the impression I get from you, like I feel like I know you, right? I've been watching your videos for so many years. I get the impression that even corporately, like we always want to look forward, but can we take a couple steps back and kind of maybe curious to some of the community on some of these issues? Because, they're going to keep coming up until they hear it from you, like people like myself, Soren, COTI Unity, COTI Ship, et cetera, have been talking about this stuff for years. But of course it's different when it comes from you. Right. And I guess the biggest one, and it already, is people ask about the PPN, and this goes back to like when we were doing COTI debit cards, right? And somebody went downstairs and they bought some Oreos, and it was like, oh, well, it's got to be Android, right? And there's all those kinds of things. They're still looking for a household name. They're wondering about what happened with DPINR. So could we please start there and just, could you tell us like where it's at? And then I have some follow-up questions about PPNs.
Okay, so let's demystify this a bit, and I thought it was demystified at the past. So let's start off with this. First, when we were payment focused, we were dealing with quite a lot of major brands. Back then, I was referring to Agoda and Booking.com. But the way things work at these organizations, they want to do something, but then like a far bigger thing happens for them, and then they'll just push it, 2 years down the line, right? And at that point, we weren't there to do these sort of solutions. DPINR, sorry, and I thought that was demystified already, is Asian Logic, which is the holding company behind Dafabet and some other gaming websites. And again, these folks process, I think, a few $1 billion a year, at least. They were super serious about building, stable coins for their user base. Priorities shift, the market changes, and they want to do something different. They were serious. They did deploy. We deployed with them. Like everything we said back then was right. There was a plan to deploy 7 other payment tokens, various currencies, scale this up, etc. But again, the way these things work is that they take a lot of time, and our focus shifted. And I think it's all for the best, to be honest.
So I've wondered this for a long time now, and now that V2 is here, we want people adopting garbled circuits, privacy on demand. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But in the future, are there plans to revisit COTI Pay Business and PPNs on V2, or is that just not going to be a focus ever again?
Look, we didn't get to privacy out of thin air. We got to privacy because of payments. And the number one use case for crypto is stable coins. And stable coins, they are used for 2 big things in crypto. One is payments, and payments, everything from card, remittance, bank, salary, everything that can move on chain will move on chain, and that will require privacy. And DeFi, right? And DeFi requires privacy. So I'm pretty certain that at some point the client base that we have and had. And we had a lot of companies processing payments with us. At some point, we'll be ready. And again, just a quick reminder, COTI's mainnet is live for 3 months now. To answer your question, I believe some of it will be revisited, some of it will be discarded. I don't regret the path that we took, because I don't know how we would have landed on payments. On privacy without payments.
Yeah, it makes sense, man. The document that you released, the first, we'll call it part 1 of your questions answered. Lots of good stuff in there. I want to look at one thing quickly because I think it's a big one, and it's JED. Now people are quick to FUD JED. They're quick to FUD the relationship between COTI and Cardano with Midnight and everything, and it's just, how these things, they get out of control. But you know what? Like you maintain that JED has never failed, and it's true. There's 4 million JED in circulation right now, and the total reserves is about $17.7 million. So I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about, where JED is, and what would you say to somebody who calls that a failure?
There are so many stable coins out there that have failed their basic premise of being stable that it's ridiculous to call JED a failure. The reality is that JED exists in the Cardano ecosystem, which we love and work very closely with, both with the foundation and with IOG. Also in discussions around Midnight, etc. I know Eran Barak, the CEO, very well. So for those who think the relationship with Cardano are sour, you are very wrong. Very, very wrong. My plan for JED is twofold. Let you know right away. Not sure we can do both but we're definitely trying. The first important thing is to open source JET. So there will be ways for JET to grow that are not dependent on COTI and IOG directly. So that's one big news. The second is around privacy on demand. And I wanted to create a private version of JET, like a private stablecoin. A private stablecoin is something super important in our world. A private stablecoin is what can fuel payments, DeFi, etc. I'm thinking JET can be something that we do ourselves. So these are my plans for JET. As for timelines, again, before someone asks, we wanted to do this around September. I hope we can make it by September. Not a promise. That's just the plan right now.
It's like we said before, right? JET is boring and it works. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, exactly.
You were talking earlier about community questions and sometimes, maybe misunderstanding the question. Here's one that I'm not even going to try and pretend like it's mine. I'm just going to read it as I have it, okay? Mm-hmm. It's where is the measurable value capture and clear deliverables from past partnerships?
COTI mainnet is 3 months old, right? So many of our partners have already integrated since we upgraded, which is obviously a very measurable activity. The network is growing in terms of transactions, which is a very measurable. One of the things I'm most excited about is is Privex that is launched as a fully formed, perp dex on COTI. It exists both on the base and on COTI. And the volume on COTI has now surpassed that of base. We're going to capture a lot of value with that because, as volume grows, it grows COTI immediately. And I think, the process that we do is trying to identify who may be the winners on our chain and trying to give them whatever sort of help that we can. And again, I want to remind people that even though crypto is super fast, working in the real world in itself is not that fast. It takes time to build good products and relationships. So people should probably step back a bit. I would sit back and kind of understand that if you made the right bet, then it's just time, but don't be stupid and leave the table too soon.
It's like you said years ago with V1 and payments. A rising tide lifts all ships, right? So yeah. We're seeing that again with privacy.
Yeah, exactly.
So for years we've watched you go across the world on to all these different conventions. Now we're seeing Joshua in the mix, and I am super bullish on Joshua. And
yes,
I've made that very, very clear. Yeah. I can't say enough about him. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the Euro CBDC, the Saudi Arabia involvement, and what's going on there. We've seen the questions come in from the community that although they look really good, it's a bit vague what's going on there. I wonder if you could touch on that a bit.
Especially on major projects like ECB, all the stuff that happens in MENA. The Bank of Israel, CBDC, etc., should not expect a daily sync on what's going on, because on a daily basis, nothing is going on a daily basis. These projects, and by the way, we don't dictate pace on these projects. They usually have their own timelines. We need to meet certain requirements, build a few things, we submit them, they process it, and then they move on with their timeline, right? So it's the sort of things that nobody sees what's going on, and then you're an overnight success. It's so people should put that mindset when discussing these projects. So let's give maybe a few more details. So ECB, European Central Bank Digital Euro. Can't say enough about how big this project is. We are a pioneer partner in the Digital Euro project. Where we stand, we needed recently, I think a month ago, to send them a proof of concept. which we did. We submitted that. They've even, I think, discussed that publicly. And the next step, and that's an ECB step, again, ECB stands for European Central Bank, is to provide a progress report. And I think, and I know this is planned for the end of this month. And by the way, all these timelines are public on the ECB website. So we are working together until October, and then we see how it continue to rolls out. If people want the details of the proposed solution that we made, it's very similar to the one that we proposed to the Bank of Israel in the Digital Shekel project last year, called conditional payments, which kind of like explains itself. Someone buys something in Europe, pays with the CBDC, with the Euro CBDC, but payment is only processed if, let's say, shipment is fulfilled. Okay, so you can look at the technical details of we posted about that in our blog about the Bank of Israel, and you can see that. So it's still very early in that project, but if all goes well, it will clearly bring meaningful value to COTI. Now, MENA region. So MENA region is something that we've started with to do something very specific around the Africa Tokenization Council. We traveled there, and we have local partners, but this whole thing grew very fast. So a lot of things are happening there. We've since been there twice, meeting major companies at in UAE, in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, etc. Policymakers, central banks, royal family members, which is probably one of the more critical things over there. Funds, etc. So there's a lot of things that are in discussion there. There is a real appetite in the region to tokenize assets. I know Dubai is the only place in the world that on a national level tokenizes real estate, right? With specific goals which they plan on meeting. So a lot of serious people are involved with serious intentions there. So been there 3 times, working on various deals. I am experienced enough to not give any names at this point, and I can only hope, pray, and do my best to lock some of these deals. Game changers for sure. We are planning, the next Real World Assets Summit Roundtable. So we'll announce that when it's done. Maybe in New York, which again Joshua did very well there with the mayor of New York. He was. Should I discuss it? I think not sure I can say that, but they've narrowed down the folks that they want to see back at a smaller table advising, and Joshua is one of them.
Soren had an interesting point about this. He said, one of them could have been a fluke. Now you're seeing a couple. Pretty soon it's going to be a pattern. So I thought that was a really good way of looking at it. So we're really excited about all these kinds of things.
And by the way, this is usually how it works, right? With this, and again, from previous companies, etc. I can tell you that, for these folks, blockchain is borderline alien technology. It's so advanced and exotic, and it means, wow, a lot of potential, but wow, a lot of risk at the same time. So they want to do it. They just don't want to make a mistake. At some point, not taking action will be a mistake. They will be left behind. Yeah. And they are very worried about that.
Here's a community opinion that I can't wrap my head around, okay? And we see somebody like Vitalik or the Ethereum Foundation kind of, talk about somebody else who's working in privacy. And so that'll get shared to the main Telegram group or on X going, oh, they're still fading COTI, or I don't know, like they don't like us. They've moved on. And and then I'll get the DM saying like, can you believe this? Doesn't this bother you? And I go, it doesn't bother me a bit. Like so I don't really understand this. But can you just, they're asking like, why hasn't Vitalik or the foundation highlighted us specifically?
Well, they did, to be honest. Vitalik recently mentioned garbled circuits, and I've met him in real life twice. He's a supercomputer, right? I don't think I know anything in this world that he doesn't already. Okay, so I'm sure we did not let him in on the notion of garbled circuits. But like Avishai, Dr. Avishai and I from Solar Lab did sit for like a good 25 minutes with him, just jotting things, right? Really geeked out each other. I could never have done what he did out there. And again, I can't tie everything to the same story, but it is true that Vitalik in April this year published several articles around privacy and mentioned garbled circuits as I think he wrote that MPC or multi-party computation can be handled extremely efficiently with garbled circuits as a solution. We are part of the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, and it's a big signal of recognition from the Ethereum ecosystem. It's not just something you apply to and you immediately accept it, right? So what it shows, so the founder of Ethereum posts about privacy quite a lot as a major thing that needs to be solved. He uses garbled circuit, and again, COTI is right now is the only chain that uses garbled circuits. There may be more in the future, but right now COTI is the only one. And he posts about this may be a very efficient solution to the problems that it has. The Ethereum Enterprise Alliance endorses us, and we are a part of all the meetings, etc., that takes place. So I feel like we are in a very good place in the Ethereum community. And again, there will be a point in time where privacy becomes like a critical thing, a super important thing. And then I think we'll shine even more.
You know what it is, right? They're waiting for Vitalik to shill the ticker. You know what I mean? And that's just
I get it. By the way, I'm not upset that people and hey, if Vitalik shilled COTI and shield the ticker, I would be happy. I'm not gonna lie, but to expect him to do so and say he's doing that for everybody, not for COTI, well, first of all, it's just wrong. It doesn't. There's a few Railgun, I think, is something but that's just his topic of interest. It doesn't mean that Railgun will do better than the other privacy solution, and it doesn't. We are in a space where merits usually change. It changes things more than endorsement, because it's a very composable, decentralized world where your solution needs to work. It's not like, hey, this is my buddy here, make him successful. It doesn't work that way. So I think in the end, the best protocol wins. And by the way, it's also not a winner-takes-all market, as you can see. So let's just see. And again, I'm very happy with where we at in the Ethereum ecosystem.
So as we've seen in the last few years, permissionlessness and decentralization brings good and also bad, right? And so recently with COTI agents, we've seen our first, V2 partner, we'll call them partner, have a compromised contract, and in many regards didn't really communicate effectively here. I was wondering if you'd shed some light from the COTI side on this.
People should expect that some of the projects on top of COTI will fail and it happened faster than what I would have hoped for, but it can happen, right? So a few things about this. First of all, it's called COTI agents, but it's not sponsored by COTI. It's not a COTI project. It's just called COTI agent. The same way there can be a DEX on top of Cardano called ADA something, right? The smart contract that was compromised, and that was for me very important to kind of like clear very early on, was a base smart contract, not a COTI smart contract. And by the way, you can build smart contracts on top of COTI that has loopholes, right? But specifically, that was a base smart contract. The team there announced, and I was following that, from the side, that they would issue a new contract for their tokens, and I think that was completed at this point. Again, it's a very unfortunate thing, but this is crypto. I believe the team there will be holding an AMA if they haven't done so they can kind of like say more. So people that want to know more should probably join this AMA and put their question there.
I think one of the reasons why it really bothered us is because we saw them as a grantee, and then most of their support, of course, came from our community. And then they didn't want to answer our questions when we were asking what the heck was going on. The biggest question for me now is, well, with everything that happened, why is it being redeployed on base? So we'll look forward to that AMA and see what happens here. But this kind of leads me into something that's going to go back to your document there, your questions answered, right? And so speaking with marketing before we had this, I found out something kind of interesting about you, because we were talking about the official Telegram. I won't name names, but they said that if it was up to you, that even the official Telegram would be completely decentralized, not monitored, and let the community have it. So for the people who are saying, well, COTI's going to be geofenced forever, the US is never going to be a part of it. We've been hearing this since staking 2.0, right? Or 1.0 probably. I wasn't around for 1.0. Could you just reiterate how important that market is for our success?
I have a bi-weekly call with my legal team, and I'll ask them, is it the right time? Are we good? Now, few things have changed, right? The wallet you don't need to do KYC with us anymore, right? We will not block you. We understand that people can use the protocol however they see fit. So everything just boils down to, are we going to allow staking for the US? Because we're not going to block any products ourselves. So the answer is absolutely yes. Now let's talk timelines and what needs to happen in the world. In our roadmap, and you'll probably ask me about our roadmap, so we'll talk about that probably later, but once we decentralize nodes completely, we will allow node operators to build their own treasuries or spin their own treasuries. When that happens, I'm not going to geofence anything, because it means that the network is fully decentralized, and the same way Vitalik or Charles Hoskinson does not geofence their products, I will not geofence COTI. So that's one thing. The second thing is, we follow legislation, we follow everything that happens, and if we feel, or if the legal team feels that, and because this is one of these things where you don't want to boss around your legal team, because they'll say, we told you, right? If we see enough happens in the real world before we decentralize the nodes and have multiple treasuries, then we'll just do it sooner. The longest I imagine will geofence is about 6 months, which is where I estimate we will have fully decentralized nodes, and I mean, the nodes are decentralized, but we can allow more people to use it, right? And spin out multiple treasuries. Can happen sooner if we see not just intent, but real things happen in the world. A lot of DeFi protocols still geofence the US. This is not something COTI exclusive. And I think a lot of people are just sitting there not wanting to be first, but COTI will not be the first to remove the geofencing from the US, but it will not be the last as well.
So I guess we're kind of there, right? Talking about milestones and roadmap as you spoke earlier. So let's just go right into it because it seems natural. But there are some people that feel that the developmental milestones are unclear. Some of that because there's not a current roadmap right now. And if we see what happened with rebirth and evolution, etc., it's not surprising that we don't have that yet. So could you talk a little bit about that?
I will only talk about the product roadmap, or like the stuff that we do internally. But remember that there will be a lot of other things that are happening at the same time on top of COTI, projects launching, etc., etc. I would say as follows. First, there is a new program that we work on. Marketing says that it's a top secret program. I don't feel that it should be a secret, so I will let you in about this right now because I think it's important. So we will launch a platform that will give new ways for holders of COTI to earn from the ecosystem. Okay, and we can dive into this a bit more, but like. First of all, timeline. So I want this to launch around September. We are already working on it. The idea is it's not unique to COTI. There are other ecosystems where you can kind of like earn from the ecosystem, but I think we've done a better job. So earn is around missions that you can do in the COTI ecosystem, everything from small tasks that anybody can do to, hey, use this dApp that we work with that is built on top of COTI. We will give you extra COTI for using this dApp. So you can, if you trade on this protocol, we will give you some more COTI for doing so. This is how we encourage developers to work on top of COTI. Okay. Create is everything around the creation and distribution of content. They can create content and or distribute it and earn COTI. And lastly is build. Build is something that Joshua, as you know, is very focused on. Everything around vibe coding, no code, low code tools that allow people to build dApps. And it's incredible. Like most of the inflation for COTI goes for this. It doesn't go to me. It goes to this to encourage, completing missions, creating, building on top of COTI. So this kind of like links the new tokens minted to the COTI community because they can do all these sort of things on top of this platform. And like whatever you do on the COTI ecosystem, you can earn COTI from it. What does it remind you of? It reminds you of loyalty platforms. It reminds you of using your credit card on various stores and collecting miles, etc. So that's kind of like the idea and how we want to see this. So that's on the way. I said September. People will kill me because I said September. So maybe it won't be September, but that's kind of like the plan right now. Next in line is nodes. So we've released light paper around nodes and the node V2 concept. First step is letting people buy a license, and that will be conducted through a sale. I expect this to happen in Q4. Then the next phase is multiple treasuries. Multiple treasury means two things. First, it means that we are rebuilding the treasury. The technology will be different, built on microservices. It's just be better. But it also means that if you run a node, you can run a treasury, as I've mentioned. So that is probably next, early Q1 next year to be safe. Privacy on demand. So privacy on demand is cross-chain privacy, is the idea that I talked about earlier. that there's a host chain where someone already has a product that he likes, that he developed. He doesn't want to move it. The liquidity is there for him. He's not going to change that. So how do we tap into that and work together? So that's privacy on demand. So that will be pretty soon. Like the idea is that we're going to showcase a demo. We're going to probably, as I said, build a private jet with it as well. But we are already in discussions, like the call I had before we got into this video is with a protocol doing very well, that lo and behold does banking and wants privacy. So, but on the chain that he already has. So we'll do that as well. And by the way, for those who are, because privacy on demand sounds nice, but it's complicated technology. But to use it, you need COTI, right? So if people are weird about, oh no, but these transactions happen on a different chain, so what are we? No, a lot of transactions need to happen on top of COTI for privacy on demand to work, because COTI is the encrypted blockchain, not the host chain. So it actually delivers a lot of transactions and grows the demand for COTI. So that's probably sooner than the rest of the things, at least the demo. But throughout time, we'll probably see projects launch on top of COTI with that.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot in there. So let me see if I can frame the questions around that. First with nodes, we'll stay with. Okay. You were hinting at costs. Can you, you said there'd be a lot of alpha. Can you kind of, paint that picture a little bit more clearly for people? A lot of people are trying to, it's difficult, right? Because a lot of people are trying to think, okay, well, am I going to lock for 360? Am I going to keep some dry powder? How much am I going to need? And GCOTI is a really good price right now. So, they're trying to, so is there anything that you can give us there that'll kind of make that decision easier for them? And then also, will there be a way for them to unlock from the treasury to buy these without incurring penalties or fees?
So I don't think people should kind of at least from my perspective, financially plan for that. It's not a big expense at all. We probably can't connect, do a workaround in the treasury to release funds. Being as it may, you do that in the treasury right now. You don't know the sort of you pull a thread here, you don't know what comes out over there. We kind of probably should not do that. Plus, the sale will take place on a third-party vendor platform, so we can't really connect all of this. We thought of building our own platform, realized this is dumb. We're not going to do. We're not a node sales company like some other. And by the way, it will bring new attention to COTI as well, because some folks just buy nodes and then they're looking for the next ecosystem to run nodes, and they will just be part of the ecosystem. That in mind, I want to again make sure that whoever wants a node that is part of the COTI community will get a node, or at least a license, obviously. So access and pricing will be very reasonable. And very rewarding. I told folks before, I think that owning a node would be one of the most rewarding things on top of COTI.
Okay, but that does clarify things, and thank you. So just one kind of follow-up question here. So you're saying that you're hoping for the nodes ecosystem to go live in Q4. Would you expect the sale to be around that same time frame?
Yeah, exactly. First, I want to know that the technology is good. The NFTs are in place, distribution, everything works. We're happy. Then we announce the sale. We give people some time to get around for it and participate. Again, this is not like a capital event for COTI. Some of the node sales, maybe a year ago, maybe more than that, were a new way to do a token like an ICO, maybe like a token generation event. People bought nodes for an ecosystem that does not exist yet. And once they had the nodes, they would have received tokens because they run a node, and that kind of be the token generation event. This is not the case for COTI. We are selling, piece of what runs the ecosystem. So the idea is not to fundraise through this process. The idea is to let people find new ways to participate in the economy in a very rewarding way.
Awesome. I know we have a bunch more questions to smash through here. Just one more quick question about the Nodes ecosystem, because it is like the biggest piece of news when we cover it on COTI Confidential, post on X. It gets a lot of engagement. One of the questions I see recirculated over and over is, what do you have a plan to kind of safeguard one user from buying all the licenses? And you know what I mean? Like, not all the licenses, but how...
One of the advantages of the platform we plan on using is that it can safeguard that. Of course, we wouldn't let that. It defeats the purpose of decentralizing our nodes if just one person buys the whole thing. I would have been very upset. Yeah, obviously there will be measures in place. I don't expect this to be an issue. Probably could own more than one license, but not all of it, not even close to all of it.
And this seemed obvious for me, but just sometimes people like to hear it from you, right?
Of
course.
Yeah.
We talked about privacy on demand. Some people feel that the news with the Axelar integration has gone a little bit cold or quiet. Could you talk a little bit about that one?
We do have a partnership with Axelar. Axelar, however, works with many protocols, and it just takes a lot of time to get products out there. And time is something that we don't have, because we want to move ahead and start onboarding clients to privacy. So with that in mind, we made progress with Hyperlane, which is an excellent team that has built cross-chain messaging. That was much faster. It's already up and running. People can actually use some of it with USDC, ETH, and BTC on the bridge that allows you to deposit that to COTI. But that's just part of the solution. I think the bigger thing is privacy on demand.
Another project that was named by name was Lava, which is something that I was really excited about when I first heard about it. That was a long time ago, and we haven't heard much since.
Sure. So Lava are good friends. I don't know if you know, the founders are Israeli, good friends. We do work with them, but the reality is that where we at right now with COTI, what they offer is not an immediate need right now. So the agreement is in place. Once the nodes are there, we need to grow a bit more for it to be very useful for us and to start, incentivizing providers. It's just not what we need right now. When we need it, Lava is there. Again, Yair is a good friend, the CEO, and then people should not be worried about that at all.
We hear a lot of people asking about the MetaMask privacy snap, kind of what's happening there. And then if you wanted to just elaborate on other wallets and other, generic DeFi integrations from there.
So we are in the process of developing, the send private transaction part, and then it will be released. So and we're very, very close to that release. So so that's one big thing. MyEther wallet has a DeFi wallet called Encrypt that it's now integrated with COTI, and they are also working on integrating privacy features. So so MyEther wallet and MetaMask allows you to send, receive, view balance on private tokens. For those who are not familiar with with what Privex is doing, so Privex essentially is it's a perp dex. So you can kind of like trade with a lot of leverage on predictions that you have for the market, anything from the price of BTC to the price of COTI and whatnot. They solve the problem of liquidity because they use something called intent-based trading. Let's not dive into the whole explanation of solvers, network, etc. The reality is that you can go to Privex right now and trade, on the 500 most popular tokens or pairs out there right now, and it has the Binance Bybit sort of liquidity. Okay, which is amazing. Like there's no longer the cold start problem that you have with new DEXs. So that's one thing that I'm very excited about. The second thing is trading agents. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with a new term called agentic volume. I believe they convinced me that over time, most of the transactions we see on chain or everywhere will be agent-based, AI-based. So it means that normies can trade very professionally with agents that they spin out. Now, this volume is captured through something called agentic volume, and it can be quite huge. CZ recently posted about the fact that what the world needs now is a private perpdex. Like the day I think that Privex launched, which is kind of like incredible. You can plan these things, right? COTI is very fast. It has privacy. The fees are not high. Agentic volume, right? And unlimited liquidity on a perpdex. This is why Privex is very exciting to me. And I think it can be the flagship product for the foreseeable future on the COTI network because it generates volume. I think now is the right time for folks to kind of like go into Privex.
Privex has a beautiful interface. So if you guys haven't gone and loaded the app, it's incredible. You said years ago, and this is shocking to me, you said years ago that you thought volatility trading for crypto would be the next big thing. And at that moment, when you guys were building out the CVI, it seemed so obvious. Like, it's just, it's so obvious. So is there a future where we might see a CVI-like instrument being integrated with Privex and COTI?
I'm disappointed that it didn't become a big thing for crypto. Volatility trading, which is huge in TradeFi, will probably be big in crypto. It's not their priority right now. I can tell you right away. The next big thing for Privex is trading agents and then privacy features. And it's all kind of like their timelines are, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, etc. So it's all happening right now. But maybe in the future, we can only hope so.
Okay. Let's move on to some kind of housekeeping items in terms of the COTI's protocol. And you spoke very candidly in your questions answered article about your unhappiness with the treasury, and I think a lot of community members have felt that, right? So my first question is going to be, the DAG was blockchain, V2 is EVM blockchain. Can you explain to everybody why we're still doing some things manually?
We wanted to kind of like monitor before we automate because they can be delicate. You don't want to realize in hindsight that you've just sent 3,000, 10,000 wrong transactions, because that's crypto and that's irreversible. So we did want to kind of like we were weary about that and wanted to do things manually before we automate something. That's probably healthy. Most, if not all, processes will be automated at some point. Some sooner than others. Some I'm actually pretty pissed that they've not been automated yet, like rewards, etc. Some things I thought should have been very easy to automate, but then the team explains to me why it's not the case, or it's just, if everything is important, then what are our priorities? If we can kind of like spin this new thing now and handle, automating processes a bit later, should we not do that? So it's just a matter of picking, priorities. It says nothing about the EVM nor the DAG, by the way, nothing. It just says something about, us deprioritizing a few things to a point where we are, okay, we we understand now how to automate this without causing bigger problems. So let's do it right now. Then it takes some time, and then we automate it. I think everything around rewards, etc., all the sticky stuff will probably be solved pretty soon.
You were talking about monitoring transactions. Some users have noticed that now when you're bridging with the V2 bridge, that you can no longer monitor your transactions. So you're going from either scan to, mainnet, COTIScan.io. Just wondering if there's a plan to change that in the future. It's a community question.
Yeah. So the current implementation is just different from the previous one. We obviously needed to rebuild the bridge, and it's just a different tech. And to be honest, we didn't understand that this was important to users. So we may opt in to a third-party vendor, and that means that people could monitor the transactions at that point.
Okay. I'm going to read this last community question verbatim before I ask you the closeout questions, because I'm just going to read it as I see it. The community rewards address that you shared seems to be empty. According to the 10-year supply document, the rewards wallet should have been filled with 110 million tokens by now. Could you please share an explanation as to why it's empty, and as well, how and when these rewards will be distributed?
Sure. So first off, these rewards are being distributed, but like all distributions at this point are done through the Genesis address. Obviously, we will do as we wrote. We will have multiple addresses, and everything will flow through these through addresses. Doesn't mean that we're not, already giving rewards, grants, etc. But just again, give it a few more weeks, and we'll start using this system.
All right. So I'm going to go back to your document, your questions answered for one question of the few that we're going to close out with. And a lot of the community questions obviously came from tokenomics, right? So if anybody wants to hear more about that, I implore them to read the document, because it does give a very, very good description there. But one thing that has people really, really worried right now is they look at the token price, they look at the inflation, they look at tokenomics, and they can't see how COTI is still funding itself. And you gave a good description on COTI's runway, or how it works, in your document. So could you just summarize that for us here? Because I think it's a big issue for a lot of community members.
Sure. So, well, first off, COTI raised funds early on, and we just did very well with these funds. At one interview, I probably said, talked about things that people don't normally disclose, is the fact that we Dr. Nir Alohani has developed an algorithm that trades very, very, very well, right? So we were very fortunate to just have a lot of crypto assets very early on. So that's one thing. The other thing is that, we keep a tight budget. We don't host $1 million parties. We don't, hire yachts. We don't do all these things. The team is it has ninjas, but not battalions, right? We don't. I don't understand why people would run around a 400 people organization, right? So that gives us runway and opportunities, and explains why we've survived the the cycles that we've survived. Not a lot of folks raising the amounts that we did, which is not a lot in crypto terms, have managed to kind of do all of that. You are very early on, especially at these prices, to a technology that becomes an enabler to something very big, right? If we understand that everything that can go on chain will go on chain, there are hundreds of trillions of assets that will go on chain. The world will go on chain. If the world goes on chain, it needs to solve for privacy. That's the biggest issue to solve now that everything else is solved, or we understand how to deal with scalability, etc.
You recently came into the Telegram before the first batch of questions, and you opened it up to everybody to ask all the questions. And I can't remember the direct quote. I tried to look for it quickly, but it was something to the effect of, the opportunity that we all share is too big for us to mess it up. Something along those lines, right? A couple of the questions we're asking, well, what plans does COTI have for its users to earn in the future? And you've talked about that with Node's ecosystem and the platform that you've hinted at. But I guess to just round everything up here, what do you see as COTI's main use case and how it will benefit the holders?
Yeah, so there is, first of all, there is a direct link between usage and value, right? Because if many want to use the COTI network, COTI it's not one of these cases where it's a protocol where it has a governance token, so it's not really clear how the value accrues, etc. This is like Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, etc. If the usage grows, and if people believe that the usage will grow even more, then the demand for the token grows because you need it for fuel. That's that. If there are many roads and many cars, people need fuel. Gas prices go up. That's exactly that's the kind of like the base idea behind a utility token. So now the question is privacy important? I think I made my opinion about this clear. I hope, luckily, I'm not the only one thinking that way, and like the biggest minds in crypto talk about this all the time.
I want to thank you for affording your time to the community, almost 2 hours today. The big document and the 100 questions that you've been, answering for us. I think that, this is a big community moment for us. It's a difficult one. We talked about markets and price action and stuff like that. And it has people a little bit upset, but meeting with you today, I'm sure the community is really going to enjoy hearing some of these answers, and we're looking forward to doing it more often. So
no, absolutely. Don't thank me. I thank you for stepping up and doing so. And it shouldn't have taken so long. And like whenever, like every now and then, I like kind of like move from and kind of like look into the group, etc. And sometimes I'm like, why are these people left unanswered? Like, we don't have anything to hide, and I think we're working hard and we're doing the best we can. Like, why don't we share more? And sometimes people, I am very direct. Sometimes my team can be like, should we say that? Are we disclosing? Is this the right time? I'm like, just say it. It gets me into trouble. I hope this conversation doesn't get me into trouble, but if that's the case, then so be it. I will be more in the group answering more questions when those arise more often, and we can definitely do this more often.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. All right. Bye. Stay COTI. Absolutely. Bye-bye.